Last week, I caught myself doing something that I tell my clients not to do, and it involved AI. Last week, I also ran the inaugural Clarity Shift event. Woohoo, thank you if you came along. And as we always do as humans, at the end of that event, I was checking in and seeing how I thought it had gone, right? My feelings, my thoughts were all bubbling up. And I was noticing my inner critic was pretty strong. I also started to notice that I was getting quite angry with myself. And so I started getting curious about what that was. The more I sat in the discomfort, the more I realized that I was really angry that I hadn't invited my AI bot to record the conversation. Why was it so important to me that an AI bot come in, record, and transcribe an event? Well, I realized it was because I was absolutely desperate to grab that transcript, paste it into Claude, and have it tell me how fabulous my event was. I wanted to outsource my thinking and, more concerningly perhaps, I actually really wanted to distance myself from the discomfort that I was feeling. Because I know that when I ask ChatGPT about my work, it always says really nice things. And I actually really needed that in the moment. I needed to stop the negative critic in my head, and AI had apparently become the easiest option to do that. That realization stopped me in my tracks, because that means I was trying to outsource validation to a bot rather than within myself. Whoa. Now, I share this with you because I am always on a perpetual journey deeper into myself. You know that. And it's really important to me that I continue to develop my relationship to self. So I was absolutely grateful, so grateful that I spotted this. And of course, me being me, this led me to explore a bit of a rabbit hole around how AI shows up like this in our business more than we realize. And with the 80-20 lens applied, my favorite thing, what is the impact of using AI, 20%, a tool, when we are not aware of ourself, 80% in the picture? So here's something I really want you to think about, because I think there are actually two very different problems people run into when using AI. And most people are really only aware of the first one. And that is, AI is fantastic at creating content, giving you feedback. But tell me this in the comments, right? Have you ever used AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you're using, to create a post for you, write an email for you? You've sent it off, but when you read it back, it doesn't quite land as you. If not, how do you feel when you're reading someone else's content and it doesn't feel like them? What happens in your body when you see an EM dash or hear a turn of phrase that sounds a little bit foreign to you? You see, AI is working from a language model it was coded with. We all know this. And EM dashes, my friends, are not an AI invention, not even a little bit. I've been using them for years. In fact, I reckon when they were training ChatGPT, they fed it some C.S. Lewis, because 1950s literature is full of EM dashes. Go check out Narnia right now. My point is that AI is trained to write a certain way, and it is doing the best it can. As an English teacher, I giggle because I used to give my students a learning mat, which had all the literary devices on it, and say, try and use as many as you can. And I swear to God, ChatGPT has got one of those and is desperately trying to get an A. The problem with that is we don't talk like that. That is written language, not conversation language. It's an algorithmic approach to crafting and creating in our language. So no, it's not going to sound like you. But I know you can get around that. You can teach it to sound like you, right? Absolutely. It's a problem that is solvable. You can feed it your voice. You can give it examples, your best content, and maybe it will sound a little bit more like you. But that's not what I want to talk about today. The other problem, of course, is that when you feed it your copy, your best examples, it's seeing just that, the surface version of you. Potentially the version of you that you feel or think is the best way to turn up in your business, your turn of phrase, your way of speaking. However, it will never be able to infer your ways of being or the internal patterns that the way you're using language is actually revealing. That is a far more complex problem than it was ever designed to solve. That is the 80% that any system or algorithm cannot get to. Now, I'm always talking about the 80-20%. Let's go back to my story. What happened to me in this story? Well, when I stopped myself long enough to not move away from the discomfort, I interrupted a pattern that I wasn't consciously aware of. And I was angry with myself for it at the time. That anger was amazing. And it was amazing that I made the mistake because I had the space to spot it. A moment to tune into that 80%. So what is going on with me? Well, when I was running that workshop, obviously, there were things going on in my nervous system and in my mind. This will be interesting if you came along. See if you spotted any of this. Let me know in the comments. I felt like the event went really, really well to start with. And I know that everybody got something out of it. I had quotes where people were demonstrating they understood this concept of the 80-20 and were able to identify one thing that they could take forward to make a huge difference in their business. They were saying things like, I need to get out of my own way so I can shift things in my business. Perfect. Self-awareness plus strategy equals growth. All of the really important things that I teach all the time. But honestly, there were moments where things were shifting for me during that presentation. My energy started to shift as the session went on. My mind, of course, was telling me things, and it felt like the energy dropped a little in the room to me, and my nervous system, as a result, kicked into overdrive. Now, all of that is discomfort, right? Great. And it's all a signal. And when I took a moment to look over my presentation and signal where were these emotions, where were these thoughts, I could use those signals, those feelings as a signpost to guide me to the gold. To remember that I already know exactly how to do that event again in a few weeks with even more power to get you even better results. That is the gold. And those emotions were signaling those opportunities to me. All I had to do was stay in the discomfort long enough to get curious enough to hear what I needed to know to make a plan. Now I have my clarity. Now is where I ask my AI friends to help me, Claude, GPT, whoever, to realize and make those changes, those additions. My AI will create the slides. It will ensure brand consistency. It will update my website in 2 minutes rather than the half an hour it would have taken me. The AI works best in that 20%. Where it's allowed to shine. It can identify patterns, it can make the changes, it can align it with best practices, all it likes. Brilliant, and I don't have to do very much. But before I work with the AI, I need to bring the human side, the whole self, the complicated. If you're not spending enough time noticing and working on that 80%, the voice in your head telling you, I can't say that. Oh, I couldn't turn up in a flowery dress to a networking event. I should put on a suit because I want them to take me seriously. or the reason why you speak about your qualifications in your website more than you do about your journey because, you don't think that's relevant. It is. Or you're busy using socials to test who you are each week. Perhaps you've got your GPT checking the viral trends and you're just doing that. And is that actually working for you? Because AI is going to be great at finding those patterns for you, bringing that value and amplifying everything you give it across all of the areas in your business that you use it in. Even if what you have shared with it is full of your patterns that are preventing you from growing. Tell me in the comments, have you felt that? Super productive, but the needle's not moving? You might be feeling super productive with AI, but you will stay stuck until you understand the power of AI and its place as an amplifier of you. Dr. Arthur Brooks explains this really well with his definition of complex and complicated problems. It's a really great thing to explore, and I'm going to explore that with you next week. So subscribe so you don't miss it. It's really valuable because AI is an amazingly powerful tool. It saves me hours of work and allows me more time to do the really big work with my clients. And I love it for that. I help my clients use AI all the time inside the Clarity Cauldron. So join me next week to explore that more and to understand how to use AI to tackle complicated tasks and questions by providing it with just about the right amount of complex information. Keen? I'll see you next week on the Inner Business Podcast. Take care.